Boy, have we got a game for you lot today. It's Twig and Praedith back with some more King of the Hill, but this one's quite a lot of fun. If you've played Beyond All
This
Reason,
one, they're all quite a lot of fun.
they are. This one's different though. So you're just playing a casual King of the Hill, and then a couple of devs drop on in, kindly opening up the game to more than the usual 16 players, and as a result we have a big old match on Raptor Crater, one of the few maps that can facilitate King of the Hill with this many players. It's 8 versus 32, a 40 player King of the Hill. Usually we would invert this match, but this map, so it's King of the Hill, but there are a few technical difficulties with this many players in the lobby, so we have a King of the Hole for you guys today. And for a quick introduction to King of the Hill, check out the King of the Hill trailer on our AllReasonNoLogic YouTube channel page. In short, it's just like your classic King of the Hill in any RTS, where you are a king with bonus on the top of a hill and defending against a horde of what we call peasants in Beyond All Reason. Additionally, there's a 10-minute no rush timer, and at no point in the game are any structures allowed to be used to hit the opponent's starting base. As we start, a shout out once again to those devs and mods that jumped in our game. I think that was Flo and Nightmare, who are in Discord with us. What you do and the others around you is an absolute godsend to the community, so thanks for all your efforts. Let's get into this one.
What you're looking at is 8 players in the crater in the center, and everyone is frantically trying to work out how to optimize this 10 minutes without any sort of rush. Myself and Twig have taken 1/4 of the king's circle, and we are trying to push our units out and get those mexes, get those resources going fast as possible.
Important just to get the heaps of the constructors out straight up, and Duffy, one of our regulars in there, always an absolute boss with the eco. Doing a little bit of communism with Seducer Aphis. I reckon these two guys play with each other. That sounds a bit risque. Play this game with each other quite a bit.
Just as an example of just how build power heavy we're going, I start with 7 constructors in order to get this up and running. My thinking being that with the extra little bit of metal that we're getting from these mexes, and the fact that my builders are going to have to walk out further, having those 2 extras that are going out and doing everything will make quite the difference. Does stall me a little bit, but it isn't going to be too much of an issue. Looking out to the outside of the players, we have a cramped external ring with just about every single spot occupied by a player, the only exception being the bottom right, where the green player, Calio, manages to grab himself 6 mexes, so he should be a pretty big threat.
You can already see him going into a T2 there. Very early T2 for standard eco.
The ones that I'm most worried about is the top left-hand side with several very high OS players crammed into that one corner.
Autopilot and Regeki, both these guys, you see these in the pro leagues. So, yeah, they're going to hurt, I'm sure.
Yes. So, fingers crossed we can just dominate the rest of the map while that side cooks. So, one of the things that is really hard to control in this game is the normal rules. So, if you do see any rule breaks in this one, we just sort of have to let them lie best as we can, because with 32 players, enforcing them as strictly as possible would be a problem. Would love to get this as an official game mode so that we could, or at least some official maps where we could force barriers like lava that drop at 10 minutes. That would be a very nice little thing to have.
Yeah, you can see here, that's the circle of the no-go zone. Originally we tried to implement it so that no one was allowed to go on any of these ramps. I'm just poorly drawing around. But you can see that was way too hard to coordinate with this many players, so we ended up just calling it as that internal line. You can see one player there, unfortunately, just yeah,
jumping down
breaking the rules, but yeah, it is what it is.
Yes. And one of the nice things though is, considering there's 40 people in here, it actually balances things out more than we expected. The sheer range of OSs, the limits to the number of available mexes for each person, actually makes a pretty strong impact on the overall balance, and I think it's for the better. So if we can host them this sort of size constantly, I'm all for it.
Definitely fun, and but we got to figure out a couple more maps that this would work on. I know this one
No, we need
works.
to make a couple of maps.
That would be
And
fantastic.
if anyone in the community can make all reason no logic maps, I know that there's the online, you can actually see the guide for it. You have to create 4 layers of the same map. One is a topography layer, one's a mechs layer, one of them's the terrain layer, and one of them is the graphical layer. I believe that's the process. Anyone who wants to do that for some King of the Hill maps, reach out to us because we would absolutely love to push this much further.
That's it. You can see how much Duffy has shot ahead with the eco by combining all these resources with Seduce Euphus. All the kings almost getting their T2s. You can see myself, Praedyth sharing. We've got Galactic Ascension, is that pronounced rightly? And the pot combining theirs. And unfortunately over here, not as great a communication. These two players both going into their own T2 labs individually. Failing to
Jumping
circle there.
to jumping to the constructor that's in my base. One of the things that I'm doing at the moment is just getting it to walk around and start all these mexes. Then I'm attaching things like build turrets or my commander or other builders to finish them off. Because one of the biggest factors on this map is how spread out all of these mexes are, and trying to minimize how much is spent on those T2 constructors so that we can get our T2 energy eco going, is to utilize the things that you've already built up to this point, and trying to get that to save all of the movement time where it can will make a pretty big difference in how quickly we get all of that T2 up.
Yeah, you can really see the benefit of the. We're gonna pause there with the benefit of the T2 lab.
Battle started.
Sorry, the T1 lab punching out 7 watts for you at the start, getting up 70 wind already by about the 6-minute mark.
Not to mention I funded your wind too.
Yeah, that's it.
So jumping out and having a look at where everyone is up to around the outside. The player that managed to grab those 6 mexes is already going into a fusion, actually going into a fusion faster than any of the kings except for Duffy, who's trying to go for an Aphis first. Don't know if that's advised, but it is what it is. And looking around the rest of the map, looking at the danger corner, still on a wind eco, but about to have a fusion. This corner powering head and eco though. That's a nice 200 wind just in that top left corner.
Looks like every corner's got their T2 up and going. Jumping finally up to the top right. Yeah, you can see all of these up. You can see a few logos around the background here. I haven't finished implementing these until the cast games, but if you jump in AllReasonNoLogic's Discord, link in the description below, we do hold tournaments, and participating in those tournaments will get your name with one of these logos, potentially customized if you place in one of those tournaments. If you get to the finals, also there's one for the wooden spoon, of course, as well. If you want to join in, just drop us a message.
Please tell me that one's made of wood.
That's a good idea. I need to get the AI onto that one, I reckon. Give it a nice effect.
Everything proceeding pretty smoothly for the rest of the game, though, and how you'd expect for a normal Kings game, just slightly scaled down. Everyone's getting their fusions up online, everyone's getting ready for the units. At around the 8:30 mark is when you want to start looking at switching into unit production. One of the things which is super interesting out of all the kings is there isn't a single piece of defense made up until Twig gets his single LLT up. And I think it's because with so much space around here, the defense is going to come down almost entirely to units.
That's it. I probably didn't even need to drop that. I just had too much metal, I think. So I just
Could have sent it to me.
You can see a little bit of you can see a comment there on the screen, which I won't read out. Unfortunately, yeah, some rule breakers. I believe that
Battle paused.
That player was removed from the game. Unfortunately, just did not want to listen to the rules throughout that game. Oh well, luckily that was the only one of the night where we had to enforce a rule on someone.
Battle paused. Battle started.
And with 30 seconds to go, doesn't look like there's too much offensive power built up for the peasants. So they're going to be fighting a defensive war, which is not recommended.
I don't know if you've been paying attention to the top right of the screen here. You can see the Peasants now 20-ish% ahead on metal and 30-ish on energy. At the start of the game, that was, I think, into the hundreds. So really the Peasants, being so many of them, and it's typical of every King of the Hill game, will have that eco advantage to start with, but the Kings do have that. It's 45% eco bonus in this game. We will slowly catch up as we can scale our eco, and players like Duffy get these fusions out. There's a 10-minute time elapsed, and you can see the spam coming out. Unfortunately, the top left players for the Kings not building anything yet and going into a T3 lab this early. Not advised.
T3 lab with only a single fusion, I might add, which is going to be a rough. They do have half the metal for it, so not going to be too bad, but definitely on the rougher side.
You're aggressive straight out of the gate, sending some fiends up, and we're going to see a mammoth come out. I don't know if this comes out just in time to defend. It doesn't look like it. It does.
It does.
There you go.
Which is super unfortunate, but I do manage to get in and take out some of the build power. In fact, all the build power.
You know what I'm going to pick on here, don't you? The wind spacing. Just only have to do a little bit of damage to these wind fields, and they fall because all the wind is built up so tightly.
And a secondary attack going up the other way. I do not want to deal with that mammoth, but some really good dragon claws on the high ground and beamers. If you want to defend against fiends, beamers are fantastic.
Which this player can't do because they're cortex. Twin guards are alright.
Very true, very true. But that blunted the second fiend attack that I did on the light blue player just down the road. Having a look up, we see Duffy's going in with his Jaguars, and Tank Tom is facing the brunt of those, getting his comm involved. But with so many ticks and so many Jaguars, it does look like they're gonna punch through. The Jaguars definitely slow up the ramp, but once they get going, they really get going, and with all those ticks punching through, that's going to be a hard area to keep defending. Thankfully, none of the Peasants have overly managed to push in, but the spider bots are coming. Interesting choice using the spider bots, considering there's so many venues of attack. The value of jumping jumping up and down the cliffs is not quite as high, but they definitely do kick out plenty of damage and with decent range.
You can really see the effect of the beamers back up in this lane. That Duffy attack there, that is taking out the last of those Jaguars. Nicely done, but good base wipe of Tank Tom there, and nothing left. Over on the left, Pink has pushed in with some fiends. Another undefended base, going for that fusion before getting enough units out. You want to push out a few welders just to defend this lane before going for that eco.
Welders really do help to shut down, particularly fiends and T1 spam.
Now we can see the effects of going straight into the T3 lab. If this lane up here, the Peasants attacked a little bit earlier, I dare say that this lane would have fallen straight away. But now with those two Kargis out, giving the Kings enough time to build out that eco and get those units out, now there is a defender's chance for this team here. Do we see a fusion fall to some ticks?
Hope not. But yeah, with the Kargi's surprisingly good at defending against most things in the early to mid game, but you need to have more than just a couple. Advanced Exploiter doing a decent job of helping them along.
Jump down to the right hand side, sorry. Bottom right. You've pushed through that last lane where that player has greeted into a APHIS. Once again, not enough units.
Battle paused.
And more fiends pushing on through, but as you can see, just at the bottom of that little, that bottom area, tons of beamers coming up to try and keep me from sweeping through the rest of the map. This is
Battle paused.
fiends just ludicrously powerful when jumping in and getting offensive position on an enemy base. This area effectively shut down for now. One of the things that I definitely should have done is I should have started producing one Sheldon and one for every fiend that I produce, so that I have that, because the fiends are just going in and dying for damage, but I'm not building up any sort of forces to try and punch on through.
Looks like we've broken the bottom lane here. The red king, the pot, has pushed through and taken out the front base here. A fat boy defending, but not quite enough to take out these sumos. Sumos mixed in with these ticks have been quite good at pushing through and taking everything out in that corner. Duffy definitely doing the best. Actually, you're probably neck and neck with Duffy with the damage done. I can actually check that in the stats. Yeah, pretty close to each other. Duffy really clearing out that top right hand lane. You've cleared out most of the bottom here. I'm very much struggling against the green players. Done a very good job defending with a ton of twin guards.
But looks like you're coming up a different ramp this time around. And it may be quite good. What we should have done here is coordinated our attacks, sent your T1 up to distract the 6 pit bulls so that my fiends could come on and clear out that purple player, but at this point we're all just sending our units around, trying to get everything done at best as we can, and also trying to scale. If you notice at the back of my base, I've got a couple of builders just on a permanent queue outside of my build range with the comm attached to them, just getting up fusions and advanced energy converters so that eco keeps scaling in the background while my unit production is still very high.
King's very much almost overflowing metal, making more than we can spend, and especially with the reclaim that's happening, you can see it's important to send these little guys, the grave robbers or the Lazarus, out for the armada to take out anything that's to reclaim anything that's put down on the ground when you wreck a base. These are 6 scorpion turrets just absolutely, Pitbull's wrecking me.
Pitbull's not the best at dealing with T1, but when you put 6 of them in a block, they do enough.
I'm terribly microing those there, not spreading out the units, so they're getting a lot of splash damage. And deciding just to leave that lane alone because we know there's nothing up there. You can see you've jumped over to the other side. We've got Regeki and... that is... Who's this player? Twinkle. Twinkle Little Star building up a ton of ticks. King is looking in quite a commanding position right now. I've got that tech advantage. Don't quite have the eco on the peasants yet, but there is spam coming from almost every angle. Getting tricky to get through, but we're seeing, look at all these fusions up the top left here. And more down here.
Yeah. That's quite scary. And unfortunately, even with the areas that have managed to break out with the Kings, they're not able to overly push further out and deal a lot more damage at this stage. Only a couple of small bastions taken out, and if you see the high ground above Duffy's base, they still have 2 fusions up there, an Aphis and a large amount of conversion between them, so they're actually still, even though the front line has been destroyed, that back line is still quite powerful.
Yeah, I actually thought that was all down earlier in the game. Didn't realise, but Duffy's had to go and divert all of his attention over to this left-hand side. Obviously, King of the Hill is a bit of a random game type that not everyone plays, so to find the meta for what to do, getting out that spam, you can see a couple of players here just learning their way through the game type. Nothing wrong with that, but just obviously other players then have to go and fill in those points which are more susceptible to falling to the horde. Oh, that's a lot of fiends that you've got.
Yes, but as you can see, I've grouped them up significantly too hard, and they are taking way too much damage coming up that hill. I should have split them between the entrances because I knew that the entrance over there was safe. But still powering through, and again splitting them to try and get some damage done, but based on some bad micro, all I end up doing is dancing them back and forth in range of some defenses.
Hey, at least they just gave me a good thumbnail for the video. Alright, T3, it's well underway by Duffy. I've just gone straight into Shivers. I'm loving the new skins on these.
The new Shivers are great. The new Shivers are absolutely great. Whoever did the design for that one, you've taken what was a... it still looked good before, but it was definitely more of a temporary model, and you've turned it into something quite unique. It really does look like a battle mech now, instead of just a something on 2 legs.
Yeah, I like that double missile out the back, kind of like the Arbiter on its side.
In fact, is it the... I need one to pop open. I'm wondering if they've actually reused the asset inside. because that'd actually make a lot of sense from a production perspective. Why reinvent the wheel when you have something that's already works? And as an engineering background, I do always like things like that. Oh, that's one thing we didn't overly do. We could have just set up an entire field of what are the artillery that kill ticks?
Oh, Junos.
Yeah, we could have set up an entire set of Junos and just kept
Hit
all the
on
ramps
repeat.
Junoed.
Yeah, that would have been smart.
Something which might be useful for next time.
Yeah, so that's where we go, the no-go zones at the start of the match that we couldn't enforce in this match. Is that's where you're allowed to fire static defense into those non-base areas. So the King's not allowed to hit, obviously, anything in the back line, and similarly for the Peasants, can't hit anything down in the centre, but there's a kind of... You can see a few Junos going off in the middle there, but we definitely could have had more going. These are snipers doing some work over on this left-hand side here.
The combination of snipers with welders in front and spam giving vision, very hard to deal with, but the right call was made and a catapult is there defending. You just have to manual target that one to hit those snipers. That can be absolutely devastating for the snipers, but they're getting spread out now because that first shot didn't come down where it was intended.
You can see them, those missiles definitely take those snipers out if they can get a direct hit. Yeah, that hurts. That definitely hurts the Peasants. But that lane's still looking quite weak. Meanwhile, these shivers that I've put out are finally doing their job and taking out this very good defense put up by Flying Duck, sorry. Along with way too many grunts, which I probably didn't micro well again. Shivers are kind of a unit I build when I just can't be fucked microing. They're so sturdy. They do a lot of damage. They're kind of like a SAR and an Arbiter combined. And just push on through and take things out without thinking too much. Alright, looking over in the red base, welders cleaning up these grunts, but we've got T3 out for the purple player here. I do like this forward base for Galactic Ascension, but unfortunately probably quite susceptible to damage from any sort of leaks through this side of the map. I think what's happening right now... Oh, we've got a breach. I missed that. So unfortunately, yeah, we've got a lack of expansion and a lack of units being produced, just focusing on the T3 for this lane. As a result, we've got our first fall in the King's lane, and now an open field there for units to go through. Duffy doing nicely coming through, both Praedyth and myself also sending units over, just getting that spam. Similarly, the pot sending over a Razorback. King is now in the lead with Eco though, so still their game to lose.
Actually surprising just how even the ecos actually are. And considering like the Kings have actually done enough damage that they've kept themselves in the game, but the Peasants are also well and truly in the hole, so it's a team effort to try and keep them out, particularly that top left side. Your spam is running straight on into the green base with the backup of those Shivas getting down those big units, and that hopefully will give you the opportunity to just push on through into the other bases. Similarly, I've finally cracked my side completely, and the Fiends are heading on into the next step, but they're now fighting into T3, which means I really do need to transition from just the Fiends that I have now.
Nice D guns out of the purple player here, taking out most of my Shivas while I'm looking away. But that going down now. Let's see how this has been cleaned up over here. Autopilot down with all those welders and those sharpshooters doing a lot of damage, but the spam is enough to hold this back at the moment, while hopefully this player can rebuild their base. If they decide to. Nope, they've left the game. take that back.
There are some. There's actually just been a couple of comments saying that 45s might be a little bit too strong for the kings in the middle. But considering how even the incomes are, I actually think that we hit the nail on the head for this one.
Yeah, it's a very close game. You can see obviously there's two lanes that have. Well, two lanes that are definitely in the peasants' favour, I feel. Maybe this one at the top right is kind of even. I feel like this would have been won by Duffy if he didn't have to jump over to the left-hand side. And then obviously the bottom right cleared out nicely, mostly by yourself. And we've got a second lane following here now. A bunch of balls getting through. If they can pop these converters, that'll go bang. We're going to get the AFIS.
Oof. Please don't get the AFIS. That would be super bad for us.
Oh.
Oof.
Ouch.
Oof. At least they didn't chain react into the other AFIS. It was close, but there's still some of that left up.
And most of our team was trying to somewhat separate our economies so that we don't get those chain reactions. And you can see a bit was taken out. Kings lost that eco lead now, but definitely still have a decent army value out there to defend.
One of the areas that I definitely messed up with was I should have tried to expand up into this top section and had the spam running through it just to stop anyone rebuilding in there. Would have given us a massive eco boost as well as a massive space boost. But now we're starting to get a lot of units pouring down, not only from the top left, which has been pretty consistent, but now from the bottom left as well.
Yeah, you can see a catapult sitting up on the hill here. Very nicely done. This is what I was mentioning before, that this forward lab, although it's very dangerous, all it takes is one chain reaction just like that, and all the build power goes down, and now this forward base is redundant.
Got to split up that build power. If you have a look quickly at my base, those bricks of build power, while losing one would be a big problem, it wouldn't completely shut me down, and I'd also have the opportunity to build more again quickly.
It's looking very dangerous on this side with these Razorbacks mixed in here, as well as some of the Shivas. I've had to now divert my attention over there rather than continuing my push up this lane here. These Shivas just continuously doing work, often putting them in a fight command though, just probably not getting the best efficiency out of them, because attention is everywhere in these King of the Hill games. There's a real APM test of your abilities if you ever want to join in. Being a king definitely really gets those fingers clicking.
Yeah, you really do have to pay attention to what's going on the map, because if a player falls, that is a big problem. But considering that the kings have that plus 45 and there's usually some form of overflow, getting back into the game isn't impossible if you're knocked out as a king. And you just have to try and do your absolute best to help the team, even if you're in a bad spot.
Yeah, I'd say the peasants now are in a bit of a lead, so we're in a bad spot. The peasants losing about, I'd say, a third of their bases. The kings down to half of their bases now.
I'm moving myself into T3, though I feel like this might be a little bit too late, as we are being massively assaulted from so many players, and the eco advantage is in the favor of the blue team of the peasants. But you are still wiping bases. Your front line of Shivas, your spam, and your catapults are still making their way up. If only there'd been enough macro to spare, enough APM to spare to get some launches onto the high ground, would have been able to chain react a lot of that wind. Great defense though. I'm seeing mines coming down from the Lilac player at the top.
Yeah, well, they do come into use in the future. They definitely hurt me a lot.
Mines are a fantastic part of this game mode. It's very, very hard to defeat them when you're so hard stuck into the APM spam that is being a king. But we do see another area starting to fall, particularly some of the red players, the red kings. With that front lab going down, it is now a real struggle to hold that front line, and the first few units are just starting to get in now.
These vanguards not ideal against spam. Probably going to do just as much damage to their own base. But nothing else to really use, unfortunately. Living off the overflow and getting our commander there on the front line is definitely the right move to hopefully get some D guns off and take out this T3.
Oof. Yeah, the vanguards just took out most of the fiends and Sheldons that were coming in to help, and the build power and T3 lab have been taken out. And will they get the APHIS? Looks like they've stopped firing just in the nick of time for that APHIS to be saved, surviving on 10 HP. Com goes down in the defense, but at least that APHIS has held for long enough for this Shiva ball to arrive.
Nicely done by Duffy, keeping pretty much the whole top half of this map under control. Getting those Titans out now, you can see my Shiva still slowly pushing. Just an absolute mass of grunts coming out with that extreme eco that we've got collected now as the kings with that bonus. You're obviously now trying to defend this lane to the side here, so unable to focus on the south of the map where you'd want to be. It really is a domino thing once you do lose a lane. I mean, it's the same for both teams though. Once you lose a lane, your attention has to divert. Do I keep pushing my lane, or do I go through and defend my teammates?
You have to defend your teammates or you lose, but if you're not heading out and doing damage, then you're just allowing more scaling out of the other team. So yeah, the balance game in this really is key, and trying to it's so hard to make a decision in this game because you constantly have to be on the offense, but you can't see the view of the map that we have right now, so being offensive is not always easy. For example, pushing up into that bottom left hand side of the map, one of the players has 16 bulwarks, so if you pick the wrong entryway to walk up, you could lose your whole army, where in comparison one of the other entryways only has 12 LLTs defending it. So just
Wow.
gotta play that game.
There's some defense.
Yes it is.
Duffy with 4 Titans pushing up to the right hand side.
Unfortunately unsupported by spam, so they're taking a lot of damage that they would hopefully prefer to mitigate.
Obviously post Vanguard up there doing a bit of extra damage as well. I don't mind this tremor as well, keeping things cleared from a distance.
We don't allow structures to rain hell down upon the other players, but a vehicle is just fine. It does look like we're getting more penetration from the top left team as their spam line is pushing into the base.
Ooh.
These pawns have found some of the eco centers and they are attacking the right things. They're going for the advanced energy converters, which are quick to take down.
Leave me alone.
Never. They will never leave you alone. And it does look like a Shiva missile coming in and taking out a chunk of that eco. Using the pawns. Oof.
Oh.
There goes. All of the APHIS.
There's
And
our strongest player.
with that, the eco has swung to about 80. It has swung to about an 80% advantage towards the Peasant's player. And with all of the units being churned up and eaten up by the bottom side, the back of the map is reasonably free to punch on in and start taking out more and more of the eco. Fantastically played by the Peasants. They did lose some areas, but the players that I actually really want to single out is the top right hand side. They basically got annihilated by Duffy, and look at them now. 7 APHIS up there in that top corner and pumping stuff out. Absolutely phenomenal getting back into a game. It can always be disheartening to lose everything, but when you jump back in and actually make quite a difference, that kept Duffy occupied, which allowed the continued scaling of the top left and that continuous push through the weakest side of the Kings, and led to a lot of damage punching on through. And the only real bastion left is my eco that is on the outside of the map in a danger close area.
You can see how much damage these medium mines do to these Shivas in the top right as well. I'm just
they can't even.
I'm like, what's going on here? I was just too distracted, not realizing how much I was losing up there, and essentially my whole army just going down to those medium mines.
I had no idea that few mines could take out that big of a T3 push. That is a super cost-effective defense.
Especially when there's choke points like this. There's only 2 choke points for that whole top, each of those islands in the corners of this map as well.
But as you saw, just as you can see in the top of your screen right now, huge chain reaction there, and that was from a Shiva firing from the low ground. So even though it's hard to get up there, if you just target fire ground, you're going to hit something because of how tight the space is.
Yeah, just guess and you'll probably make some value out of your shots.
Or just try and get a couple of scouting units up there, like ticks, anything along those lines.
What do you reckon, Prey, with between 3 and 500% down on eco?
Oh, look, I've got this in the bag.
Yeah,
I got this
100%.
in the bag. Yeah, as you can see, I've got all of these pawns, all of these grunts defending the back of my base against that Razorback. Nothing's going to push through all of that. I don't know why my own units are killing my own stuff. I only lost because of treason and insurrection, not because I played badly and other people played better. I'm sticking to it. That's my story.
We're down to just spam now. A couple Kargis still coming out, but I think that's about it. We've got one comm left, sitting in the middle of my base. I think I use a take command on that one. And that is all the damage that we do to the peasants in this game. So very nicely played by the peasants. Getting the win on this one, obviously. If you guys want to join into these matches, like, jump in the Discord, links in the description below. Also, hit the like and subscribe button on these YouTubes if you feel like finally doing us that favour. We definitely appreciate that.
There we go, got the comm heading in to try and fight a demon. Unfortunately, not quite how it was supposed to go. My D-gun was supposed to kill it, but it did not. And I'm just trying to self-destruct my things to prevent them from getting the medal, because I swear that'll make a difference at this point in the game.
Now those Razorbacks that defeated the Shivas at the top right coming down to take it over the last eco. And I decided to do a little bit damage to them by just detonating my fusion. That's it, ladies and gentlemen.
That is all she wrote. Big thanks to everyone that participated in this one, and even more so a big thanks to the community managers that joined on and made this one possible. When we went to do this replay, Twig was describing the match, and I was like, oh yeah, that was the one the Kings won. No, it wasn't. I just had so much fun that I forgot that I lost.
Yeah, well, defending as a king really just like is like an intense experience when you've got up to maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 players against just you. So you're really maxing out that APM and playing your best. So real fun experience with the bigger King of the Hill games and also the small ones as well. Great fun jumping them anytime. Quick look at these stats. You can see Duffy with that communism really jumping up in eco there. But you can also see how well a couple of those peasants did. The purple and the blue lines really high up there as peasants, thanks to the combined eco, the green as well. And
the one I really want to look at, though, is the damage dealt graph.
There we go.
Duffy with that communist eco, even though he managed to stay well ahead of the game, just so much damage done. And similarly, a lot of the kings very, very high up in there, but also some of the peasants doing incredible amounts of damage considering just how much they were harmed. For example, the green player that basically got eliminated in the top right is right up there with red's damage. Just fantastic effort by all the peasants. It can be hard being one of a crowd of 32, but everyone put in a lot of work and a lot of effort to take out the kings, so kudos to them.
So yeah, I'd love to know how much of this orange line that you created was done by fiends.
All of it. I only built fiends.
Nicely done. Definitely a favourite unit. We hope you guys enjoyed this one.
They're just so fast.
They are. A great game to all those that played. We hope to see you in those next ones. I'm sure there's going to be many more to come in the future every Sunday. And yeah, we will see you.
Thanks everyone for watching. Jump into our Discord if you wanna play with us. We also do tournaments and whatnot. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe, and if you want more stuff like this, then absolutely hammer those comments so that we can show it to the devs and try and get our own map, because that would be awesome. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll catch you next time.
Arrivederci.